Alright, we're going to draft straight to start to finish problem 4-1 here, and we're going to try to talk through the process as we do it. I want you all to remember that the first thing you do is set your environment. You come into AutoCAD, hopefully on the black space or the drafting space, and I'm going to click to that now. I'm going to go to the model here. You see my settings are a little bit different, but I'm going to go right here and go to the model space, hitting an escape key. I'm going to left click. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to options, and you remember you go out to profiles. Up, something's not working here. I'm going to stop this real quick. Keep going because I really do want to keep going on this one. This actually is speech recognition, what was coming up. Speech recognition on my computer, which I'll kind of show you a little bit later. Right click, holding down the right click, go to profiles, get your profile. Obviously I'm at home, so mine's set up to a home profile. Okay. First thing you do is get an idea of your piece and how big it is, and then draft a box that's slightly larger than the box or the thing that you're going to be drafting. If it's at an angle, you should probably learn to draft your box at an angle. You can use the rectangle command. It's not on your mouse. The first time it's not on your mouse, or you could draft actually some lines and do a fillet. So I'm going to use the rectangle command here. Left clicking, and you see I have the flea on. I want to learn to draft with that off. I turn the dynamic off, and I'm going to say here at 10, 8. Now, and that didn't work. I'll try it again. Again, I'm clicking on this at home. It's early morning. I didn't check my computer, so what I had to do just now is turn my keyboard off and then back on, so it did take input from the keyboard. So I'm going to go ahead and hit and say at. Still trying to get the keyboard to work. At 10, 8. I'm using visual clues. I tried to hit the keyboard and nothing worked, so therefore I had to look why. The sense of using visual clues. Alright, you've drafted a box larger than the thing you're supposed to draft. That box should be on the view layer, so we're going to left click on something. We're going to right click. I'm going down to properties, which was lost on your screen, and I'm going to put that on the layer called view. Alright. Click an X here, hit an escape key, and here I am. I've got a general box. One thing that's unusual, you want to then, once you get looking at a drafting piece, look at your strong baselines. And very often they'll be perpendicular to each other. And you also want to look for lines of symmetry. So in problem 4-1, there's a line of symmetry down the center called a center line. The left side is exactly the same as the right side. That's such an important thing to get a hold of early because it'll save you a lot of drafting. So we have symmetry, so we're going to just draft the left side and then we're going to flip it over using something called a mirror command. Alright, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and arbitrarily draft a line on that's going to be the center line. I'm using the line command. I'm just going to arbitrarily pick this using my eye, if I would. You know that piece is 5 tall, so I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to say at, and I'm going to make it arbitrary, 10, angle 90. Okay, so now I've drafted in a piece here. I'm going to think of that line as going all the way from the bottom all the way up through the top. So now I can start using offsets to my major kink points, if you would. And I see one kink point is 1 distance away, another kink point is 4 distance away, and then I'm going to come back to the point 5. So I'm going to say, and that's going across the top there. So I'm holding down my right mouse, going to offset, and I'm going to go with offset distance of 1, spacebar. That's offset 1, distance, spacebar, distance of 4, spacebar, and then a distance of 0.5 coming back. Alright, I'm also going to draft that baseline along the bottom here, and I'm going to draft that with a line again. And you see all these lines are coming in the center line layer, which we can change later. Endpoint, I go with hold down my right mouse button, line, shift right click from the endpoint of that, what we call our center line, shift right click to the endpoint there. Now we'll learn later how to actually change the current layer you're drafting on, but for now we'll keep going on that. If we think about that, we have a total distance from bottom to top of 2. In other words, the thickness of the base piece. So I can now say, hold down my right mouse, offset 2. Again, we're just drafting the left side, left piece, so it can kind of throw off your eye a little bit here. That's 2, and then the total piece is 5 tall. So offset by hitting the space bar. Hitting the space bar will remember the last command you did. So I'm going to say offset, in this case, 5. Right? So now you start to see what you can connect up. Most of these things, the last offset we're going to see is if we come down from here down, it will be down 3 along the left side, and I'll do that in a second after I get these lines going. Alright, so here's what you have. You have a distance of 1, you have a long distance to that kick point and over. So now you can start, if you want, you could start doing things like drafting a line from an intersection to an intersection and then doing fillets. Line from the intersection, and I've got, make sure you have all your little tabs here off. Shift right click to the endpoint here, and I see how it's getting the endpoint. You see I don't want an endpoint. I can hit an escape here and try it again. Line from the intersection to the intersection. And now you can start doing things like fillet if you would. So hold down the mouse key, fillet, grab that piece and this piece. Spacebar, grab this piece and this piece. All right, you're starting to fill in that piece. And the last bit we're now going to do, because you don't have to do this all in rows, we're going to offset this piece down 3. So hold down your right mouse, offset 3, and you have that point right there. F for fillet. Well, we're not going to fillet that yet, but we could fillet these 2 pieces here if we wanted. But now you see you are given actually an angle. It is telling you that this angle here is 60 degrees down, which is a -60. You'd have to think a little bit about that on the other side, but mostly you're also using visual clues here. So I'm going to go ahead and draft a line. Shift right click from the intersection. And at this point you learn to draft really long lines and then cut them off. So I've got a line there. I'm zooming in and out here with my wheel. I'm going to say at. I'm going to give it a distance of 10, which is longer than I need. Angle -60, remembering that east is 0 degrees, which means now I can go ahead, holding down my right mouse button, fillet. The radius is still set to 0. I take click, click, space bar to repeat the fillet, click, click, and you have really right now the basis of the outside of your piece, don't you? Space bar, click, click, if you wanted here, right? And at this point, you're going to not really want to get rid of all your baselines. I might not have wanted to even erase that last one out, because the next step is going to be to fill in your holes by doing offset from the baseline and offset from the other baseline, and then drawing your radiuses, your circles with the radius. So right now, visually, that looks about right. So what we can finally do is, maybe to make it look better to your eye, we could have done this earlier, we can go around the pike here and left clicking, left clicking, left clicking, left clicking, left clicking, right clicking, changing properties, and doing it there. We'll continue.